Hey, welcome back to the channel. Here we are back at the bench at Mike's Mods and Customs, and we're going to do a little bit of a tutorial today. We are going to go through the cleaning process of my Tritium TG3 airbrush from Grex. All right, so here we are with some of our tools set up and some basic things needed, and just going to go over some of the stuff with you that I use. So I have here is the main ingredient. This is the Army Painter airbrush medium, which is just an airbrush thinner. I have these cleaning brushes that pretty much come with every airbrush. If they don't come with it, you can buy them separately for sure. These cool little micro brushes, I use these quite a bit. In fact, this is the last I have. I have to restock. And I always have on hand some fresh Q-tips and some toothpicks with the really pointy point to them. Toothpicks have several different tips, and I use that one with the point. And then I have here is a wrench that comes with most all airbrushes to be able to take some things apart. And then I have here, this is an old needle that has a little bend on the tip that becomes very, very handy to clean things out on the inside if need be. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and get this thing taken apart. So what I do first is I take some of this and I put it into a clean, empty container and have that on hand, just like so, nothing crazy. And I'll set that up. If I don't have a smaller dish, which is sometimes more convenient, I'll set that up so it'll sit at an angle like that. So this way it pulls on the bottom. So as I take things apart, they go right in there. I'm going to start with just taking the cup off. And with this pistol grip style gravity feed, the cup just screws right into the top. So that's relatively clean from my last use. I know when I used this last, I did not clean it properly. I ran thinner through it until I had no paint coming through. And that was that. That's all I did. So this piece on the Grex gun, the very tip of it is magnetized. So it just pops right on there. There's actually a spare right here to give you a different fan layout. This one here that I use all the time, that's right on the front. And you'll have paint built up on the inside there. I don't know that you can see that, but there is some paint buildup on the inside of there. So we're going to set that in the thinner, let that sit there and soak while we're going through the rest of it. So now we have the tip of the needle sticking out of the front there. We don't want that to stay like that. Take this back piece off here. That's just a cover and the adjuster for the throw of your trigger. You'll see when I pull this, that goes back. This on the back here adjusts how far that'll go. But to get the needle out, right here, loosen up this thumb screw, and then you can slide your needle out. So this thumb screw basically locks onto your needle to hold the needle in place. So you take that out, and when I remove the needle, I don't just slide it out. I spin it and slide it out at the same time. And why I do that is because there's bushings all through here that the needle actually slides through. So I spin it so it moves, it glides smoothly through those bushings. Then at this point, I take a spare clean shop rag and I put some thinner on it. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to squeeze on here and spin and pull the needle through that thinner. And this will help to clean off any residual paint that might be on, of course, only the front side of this needle is where there'll be paint buildup. The back side just slides through the gun, so if anything, there's going to be oil there, which we'll go over later. So there's that. Set that aside so that it doesn't become damaged or in the way with anything. And now we have the empty body of the airbrush. We still have a couple more pieces to take off in the front here. This cap unscrews. And sometimes there's washers in here, so you want to be careful of that. But that goes off and goes in my solution. So the tip of that will get clean. And then the nozzle is this piece right here. That's the piece that you really need to use this tool for. And it doesn't take a whole lot to tighten this or to loosen it. And it's very fragile, trust me. I've broken it inside the gun. Not a fun experience. So I get the nozzle off, and that goes in the cleaner. Now we have a bare gun with nothing major inside of it, aside from the bushings and stuff that is still in here. I'll show you how I clean the inside of the gun. All right, so to the inside of the gun. This is where I use the micro brushes quite a bit. So using the thinner cleaner that's in our cup, I just dip the micro brush in there, and then I get inside the face of the gun, and I'm putting slight pressure against the outside edges of this as I'm cleaning in and out. So just rubbing the outside edges of the gun itself, and forgetting to do this in case there's anything on there. You wipe it off on your towel, and you go back in and you do some more. And now you'll see, and I don't know if you can, you'll see on the inside as I'm pushing this brush through, you'll see that down inside there, in here, you'll see it come through as I have it clean. I'm just cleaning that chamber. And then I do the same thing in the opposite direction. Get down inside of there as best as you can. Spinning the brush, rotating the brush around the edges. And with this particular case, I know the last time I used this brush, I did not clean it right at all. So I know there's going to be built up paint on the inside of this. So basically what I'm doing in this case is really just kind of coating the inside of this with some thinner and cleaner and let it soak in there for a few. And then I'm going to go back in again and give it a really good cleaning. I can see along the bottom of these threads where the cup sits, there's some paint built up right there. There. That crap you don't want inside your airbrush. I'm going to keep working away at this exact same thing that I'm showing you, and I'll come back with you in a few when I have this thoroughly cleaned like I like, and I'll show you how I work with those brushes next. Get it out. So then what I do with this is I use the smallest brush on the ring. This one right here. It's the smallest one that there is on the ring. Super tiny. And I start with going on the inside. Same thing, just lightly inside, in and out, in and out. There is brass in there. You don't want to go too aggressive. But again, you'll see it come through. And if you really want to get into a really deep clean, you can play with this, and you can get this thing to go in just a little bit more inside of the back side of the gun and clean the very tip of that, make sure there's no paint there. But for this particular spot, I'm not going to do that. So then I go back down this way, and now I'm going to come out the front of the gun. So I'll get that brush down inside, and you'll see it comes out the front. And I just do that back and forth just a couple of times. That's what I use these brushes for. And I'll occasionally go up to the very next one up and just go lightly inside the front and back out. This fits in there rather tight, and this is just going to give us another little added extra clean to the very edges of where the paint comes out of the gun. So that now takes care of the gun in itself. I'm pretty happy with the way that that's cleaned up now. We'll set that aside, and then we're going to work on those little bits that we took apart. Start with the bigger ones only because they're easier. So this has been sitting in there soaking in the cleaner for a while. This very end of the cap is where the paint actually comes right out, this hole here. So you'll find around these edges of it that the paint will build up along these edges here, and you'll have to get in there and clean it out. I don't see a whole lot of buildup there right now, so that's in pretty good condition. And I'll do the same thing on the inside, and I'll work this micro brush down through that hole there just a little bit. And I will at this point take a toothpick and just get down inside just to see the tip of the toothpick come out of the hole, just to see that there's nothing there. And I will show you another additional tip with cleaning this part with the old needle. So this is an old needle with a bent tip. so I know the tip is no good. But I use this to get in there and get a good cleaning on this nozzle, I'm sorry, on this cap. I'll put the needle in both directions. I'll go in through the front, give it a little spin, just work it around a little bit. And you'll find if there's anything in there clogged, if there's anything, any paint adhered to the inside edges of this where you couldn't get with anything else, the bent tip will grab it and pull it out. So that's why this is really handy to have. So that's going to be nice and clean. We're going to just put this cap on it and set that aside for now because we're going to use it again when we get to the nozzle. But this has a bunch of paint built up on the edges, which is very common because this is exactly where all the paint comes through. It's going to take a little bit more work, get it all clean, because like I said, I didn't clean it at all properly when I put it away a couple of weeks ago. So to get all this paint out of there, it'll take a little bit more work than normal. Dip the Q-tip in the cleaner, work the Q-tip in there to scrub, see? Scrub away at that crap that I've let sit in there. You can still see more in there. See, there's another chunk that came out. So I'm going to let that sit and soak in the cleaner just a little bit longer. And we're going to go ahead and work on the nozzle. But with these micro brushes, you can just slightly get the micro brush inside of there, spin it around, and hope to loosen up any of the crap that might be in there. Of course, if there's too much in there, what are you going to do? You're just going to push it up into the point of the needle, right? Well, that's where our old needle comes in. Get in there with the old needle, kind of feel the edges, you can feel it, and you can just pull back on the edges. You don't really know for sure if you're pulling out any paint because you can't see anything, can't feel any layers of paint, but you'll know. When you do this, you'll come out with a huge chunk of paint on there. And you can push the needle all the way through. Through the needle. So I'm fairly happy with that. I don't see that there's any issues in there. In a lot of cases, when you're done using your airbrush and you take just a whole bunch of cleaner and you run it through the paint, run it through the gun, run it through until you have no color coming out at all, that does a pretty good job of getting this clean. So I'm happy with that. All right, so here we are. I got this, jumped ahead a little bit, and I got this clean to my liking. And as an example, I let this sit for so long, I had to use this larger wire brush that comes on the cleaning brush to kind of scratch the surface there. Not scratch it, but just get in there with the rougher material to loosen up that paint and get that piece nice and clean. So now I'm going to just go ahead and dry off some of these pieces and get them cleaned, dried up, and ready for reassembly. And we'll be right back. So, reassemble time. So, just reversing the procedure of what we did to get the stuff apart. I'm going to start with the needle. And this is 0.3 stuff that I'm using to assemble this. So, very gently, very carefully, I go ahead and get that started. And I just get it finger tight with my fingers as I'm tightening it up. And then you take the wrench. Once that's gone in nice and straight, nice and smooth, very easy to cross thread this, so you have to take caution when you're putting this in. I've cross threaded it and broke it before. Once you get the wrench on there, you can feel that it's tight. It just kind of bottomed out, and then just a little tweak. That is it. That's all that needs. Doesn't need anything more than that. So then we're going to go ahead and put this cap back on. And now at this point, once this is on, and just tight, nothing crazy. You don't have to, no He-Man stuff here. Now that that's done, now you can reapply the needle and put the needle back in because you have protection for the tip of it. So make sure this is nice and loose. And now we have the needle. So remember how I said earlier that the needle slides through some bushings inside of there? So I use some bearing oil for my RC car stuff. This is really basically a 3-in-1 oil. You can use anything. There's the Train lubricant oils that you can use. There's special oil from the AirBrush companies that you can use. Honestly, I really don't think that it really matters. Oil is what you need. That's what matters. So what I do with this is I just put a small amount on the front half of the gun, of the needle, because this part here you don't have to really worry about. That's going to be all paint. You want to lubricate the back half of it. So I now have the oil on my fingers, and I just, again, just like cleaning it, I just spin the needle through my fingers, back and forth, lubricating the needle with a light coat of oil. Now it's ready to insert back into the gun. So again, being careful not to damage the tip, because these are very, very fragile. They can damage very easily. So you very slightly, very easily slide this into the end. Once you get it in there, you'll feel it slide into the guides, and slightly spin it and push it in at the same time. And why are you spinning it while you're pushing it in? Because it's going through those bushings inside of there, and you want the lubrication you have on the needle to get into those bushings as well. And you'll feel it when this thing bottoms out. You'll know when it's there. So what I do is I get it there, it just seated all the way in. I can't push it in any further. I'll pull it back a little bit more, and now I'll tighten this up and I'll spin it in. I'll tighten this up and I'll spin it in. As I'm tightening this and spinning this, I feel more resistance on the needle, so I know this is getting tighter, and it's seated all the way against the front. That's now locked down. That you give a little bit of a firm grip and tighten it up. You pull back on your trigger to verify that that's operating properly there, and then you take a look at your needle up front, which is really hard to see, but you can pull back and you can see the needle go inside of the gun. You know you're good. So that's all set there. You take your adjusting cap, put that back on, put your cap back on. Again, paying attention to all these steps so you don't crust or anything. Put the cover on, put your main cap back on the front of the gun. Gun is now clean and ready to go. So that's all I got. Hope you guys picked up a little bit of something there. I do commonly get quite a bit of questions on how to clean an airbrush. This is the Grex airbrush. A lot of the airbrushes are very similar. A lot of the same internal components. They may come apart a little bit differently, but generally it's the same. A little bit of time and patience. Once you do it, it's a repetitive step. Once you do it often enough, you can blow out cleaning one of these in a quick, easy 10 minutes. You can be done and put away and ready to go again. So thanks for hanging out here with me real quick. Thanks for watching another episode here at Mike's Mods and Customs. And I will catch you on the next one.
And thanks for joining me here for another episode here at Mike's Mods and Customs. If you really like what you see here, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below, and maybe even share it along to a couple of friends of yours. Once again, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you on the next one.